Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome to another episode of Peak Performers, where I interview inspiring entrepreneurs, business leaders, pro athletes, health and fitness masters, all in an attempt to bring to you their tools, tricks, techniques, and psychology that they use in order to be peak performers. This is episode number 11, Winning on the Field and Winning off the Field. Today's special guest is none other than Fran Tarkenton. He is a serial entrepreneur and NFL Hall of Fame quarterback and the founder of the Tarkenton Companies. During his NFL career, Fran set every major record for quarterbacks: wins, completions, pass attempts, touchdowns, passing yards, yards rushing. He led the Minnesota Vikings to 3 Super Bowl appearances and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1986. But starting even before the NFL career began, he was an entrepreneur. Over more than 50 years in business, Fran Tarkenton has built more than 20 successful companies, all from the ground up. For the last 20 years, he has helped small business entrepreneurs across the continent through GoSmallBiz.com and the Tarkenton Institute. I had the honor and privilege to sit down with Fran at an event that I put together for Atlanta's Entrepreneurs Organization. This interview was done in front of a live audience, so the audio quality is not as good as it normally is on this podcast. However, I caution you, the content and the value that he's about to bring is extraordinary. He talks about the times he spent with Walton when Sam was alive. He talks about the experiences and the lessons he's learned from his coaches along the way. There are so many great concepts and ideas here that we had to break this interview into 2 sections. So you're about to listen to part 1. Sit back and enjoy. Well, thank you so much for making this possible. When we first looked at this and put this on the calendar, I said, based on your knowledge and expertise, we need to do at least a 3-day program. So we're going to try to squeeze in an hour and 15 minutes, everything possible that Fran has to share about success and entrepreneurship. And I know that's going to be a challenge. There's a lot of questions that we have. Sure. I wish we had 3 days, but we're going to fire off some questions. And we're also going to have some questions from the audience as well. So feel free to ask that when we get towards the end. So. We'll start it off with, I know that coaches in your past have really made a big difference in your career. Tell us some of the lessons that you learned that really stick out in your mind of what some of those coaches and mentors have shared.
Well, I don't think any of us, I've never had an original thought. I don't think anybody has. We learn from what we see, what we hear, what we read. We grow up and most of us don't think we're the smartest, the prettiest, the most handsome, the most talented, the biggest, the fastest, and so forth, right? And we have plenty of critics out there who tell us that we aren't those things, and they tell us that we're not those things. But most everything I've learned came from athletics. I wasn't enamored with education. I made good grades, figured out the system, how to study, make a grade, but I didn't learn a lot. I learned in sports. I played football in the alleys of Washington, D.C. 2-man touch football with my brother, my older brother. And we learned how to, in a small area, to be able to run plays and complete passes and win in the alley. As I went on and started playing organized sports, I played baseball, football, basketball in high school from age 13 on. So I figured out how to play. Most people, it's not just about being athletic and big and fast. You've got to figure out how to make plays and how to play. And early, all of my life, I just figured that out. But I figured it out by asking questions. I asked questions of my coaches. And especially in high school, because the players didn't know any more than I knew. But that got me started in my curiosity and asking questions, and I wanted to get smarter about what I did. I had to do that every day. You just don't walk into the room, you're the smartest guy in the class in business or sports. And I think the discipline of all that and the learning from sports got me going to understand whatever I was going to go out to do. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was 7 years old. I figured out how to do it. I had a paper route in Washington, D.C. at age 7. I lived at 610 Maryland Avenue, 6 blocks from the Capitol, so we're in the inner city. And back then, you delivered papers 7 days a week, and you wouldn't collect it once a month. I, at 7, learned how to do that. I learned how to get around the city. What an education that was, right? And all the time that I played football in college, I had a football scholarship, but I didn't have any money. I worked. You learn entrepreneurship, you learn work, you learn, by working. And I worked in the summertime on a farm for a guy named Julius Bishop. The chicken farms around Gainesville, Georgia, Athens, Georgia, were the big deals, and then they moved to Arkansas. And so I worked in the summertime 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. They paid me $40 a week. But, I had some value, right? I did something and somebody gave me money. I didn't know whether 40 was good or bad, more money than I had. And so I'll finish this dialogue, just giving a long answer to your question. When I went to play pro football, people said, oh, you're lucky, you got to play pro football. And after your career, you went into business. And not true. I was in business in high school, in college, and in pro football, I made $12,500 as my salary as a starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings in the National Football League. I was Rookie of the Year. I made $12,500. I got a job, and my job was I stayed in Minnesota. I'm a Athens, Georgia boy, Atlanta boy, Georgia boy. Any of you people ever been to Minnesota in the wintertime?
That's why we live here.
It's another world. And so guy came to me. He was president. His name was Maury Wilson, president of Wilson Truck Systems, based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is even farther west and north of Minneapolis. And he wanted me to work for him and be a salesman. And it's all regulated, so there's no price advantage. So I still lived in Minneapolis, but I spent the week in the Dakotas. Fargo, North Dakota, Aberdeen, South Dakota, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My job was to knock on the doors of shipping clerks in sub-zero weather to get them to ship their goods from the Dakotas to Minnesota to Chicago and back. But I made a lot of money, $600 a month. But I learned an awful lot about selling, and I'll talk about selling later. I learned a lot about selling, and so I would also, during the off season, even at nighttime, I needed to have an extra job, so I made speeches. They want the quarterback for the Vikings. I made a lot of money making speeches, $25 a speech. Peyton Manning makes $100,000 a speech today. I made $25, but not long ago, I looked back at my income for 18 years in the National Football League. By the end of 18 years, I was making $275,000. That's chump change today. And that's all. Peyton Manning makes more money in 1 year than I made in 18 years, 3 or 4 times over. And so, but I look back at, always worked in the off season. I worked during the season. In my 18 years, there was never a year that I didn't make more money in business than I made in playing football. So that discipline and learning came then. The reason I was a professional football player, I played football when I was 4 years old. The reason Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth are great golfers, they start playing golf when they're 5 years old. And if you're late to the party, in sports, you can't get there. But in our world of business, you can get there, but you got to go out and you got to ask a lot of questions. You got to be curious, and you got to work, and you got to fail, and you got to learn from the failure and own the failure and go, right? So that's what I learned from football.
You know, I love what you say about the questions. The questions in my mind are the answer.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. You just ended up on something that I wanted to touch next, and that's failure. Everyone in this room is an entrepreneur. They run their own business. And in business, there are peaks and there are valleys. From those valleys that you've had over your career in business, what are some of the lessons that you've learned?
Well, in life, peaks and valleys.
Yes, sir.
It's tough. We deal with tragedies. We deal with some successes. We deal with betrayal. There's all kind of things that we deal with. And we like to think everything is just, never is it? Never is. And business and sports never is. I'll make a statement to you that for me, not for you, I have not learned much from winning. I've learned mostly from failure. And you say, well, that's kind of, you're a loser. Everybody's hung up with loser, winner, winner, loser. It's nonsense. It's just nonsense. When we played a high school game, college game, pro game, whatever it was, we win, it was euphoric. Gosh, we'd go out and have a beer with each other. Maybe we'd have dinner with our friends, and we'd tell each other how great we were, and what a great play, and what a great throw, and a great tackle. And we just lavish praise upon ourselves. When we lost, I didn't go out. I went and started watching film. And what did I not do? I did not prepare. But here's the one thing I learned to do. I never blamed my failure on anybody else. If you come out of here with one thought, you own your failure. When people come to work for me, I interview them. And if they tell me why they didn't, they were in this environment, it was a bad environment, they couldn't make it there, they don't have much of a chance with me. Because you've got to own your failure. I never blamed a teammate, never blamed a coach on our failure. I lost 3 Super Bowls. I played in 3 of the first 11. In my first 10 years, we didn't have Super Bowls the first time. And we lost all 3 of them on the biggest stage there was. And I took ownership of that. If I'd have made more passes, more throws, more plays, scored more touchdowns, would have played. Now, was I being a martyr? No, I'm not being a martyr. I'm being honest with myself. If I own the failure, I have a chance to learn from the failure. And that's I wrote the book about that, obviously, and I wrote about it. But I tell my people, don't be afraid. We got to fail every day. We got to fail faster. Because we got to get smarter every day. We got to learn every day. And then we all think it's all easy for everybody else. The greatest company in the world, maybe in history and today, is Apple Computer. Or Apple, it's not Apple Computer. And they're the richest company. They're making $8 zillion. They got $250 billion or $40 billion in the bank. And they're trading at a multiple of 9 or 10 times earnings, and the market's 19 times earnings, and all the pundits say, you're done. Apple. And they're obviously not done. But the challenge is, as an entrepreneur, if we get satisfied and think we got the answer, we're in for trouble. Every time I thought I've had the answer, I don't. Because the world changes, the market changes, and because it's successful today doesn't mean it's going to be successful tomorrow, right? And when you start your business, I'll remind you of something right now. And if anybody could just think this is wrong, raise your hand. It always takes longer to get your business going than you think. It always takes more money. And if you're going to change your business and start doing more things, it takes longer. And that's all my business life. To get a group of people. That's why it's important to not operate in a box by yourself. If you're an entrepreneur, sole proprietor, you got to have people to talk to. And you got to push the envelopes. And you got to find out how you can do a better job of building products or services that solve problems for somebody. And in doing that, you're going to fight the flow of get-rich-quick schemes. Come to my seminar and spend $5,000 with me, and in 2 days, I'm going to teach you how to be a millionaire overnight. I have seen that for my lifetime. I call it the silver bullet deal. And it's just rampant in this country. And the people that are spraying out the silver bullets are the most gifted they're not salespeople, they're gifted speakers. And they can, sell ice to the Eskimos. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? And I recognize that pretty fast. And when I see people that come to me and they knock on my door all the time, and it takes about 2 seconds for me to recognize that I don't want to do business with these people. And it's the shortcut people, right? And it's prevalent and it keeps going. But entrepreneurship, as we just said, you learn from failure, but you got to own the failure, and you got to get smarter every day. And you gotta, and that comes from talking and asking and being curious.
Awesome. I believe in life that there's winners and there's learners, and I've been on the learner side a lot.
Well, and the winning thing, we don't win every game. Little Steph Curry now, he's just hottest thing in sports today. I mean, he's a show, but he didn't make every shot, and he got injured, and he missed games, and he had a tough transition back, but he keeps getting back up. But he's improved every year that he's played. You look at his stats, you look at his workouts and how he works and how he learns and how he gets better. And I don't care whether you're an athlete, but it's shown more an athlete because we can see immediate failure or immediate winning, right? We win the game, we lose the game, we make a shot, we don't make a shot, so we get instant feedback. But you look at his routine and how he trains, and even before a game, he'll go out and it's unbelievable what he does to get ready to play the game. And with that, he came up this is, I think, his 6th year, maybe 7th. Every year, you look at his record. Every year is better. Now, if we can say that as entrepreneurs, business people, we got a chance.
Always improving. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges facing entrepreneurs today?
I think it's we think there's a silver bullet, and people that are rich and doing well, they got a secret potion, secret formula. And some of them do. And that is they cheat. All cheaters don't get caught. And they cheat. So on Wall Street, when we see Goldman Sachs, they are the icon of the financial system of this country on Wall Street. And then you look at McKinsey and Company, the iconic go-to company for all companies. They're going to give you the strategy and help make you more efficient and all this stuff. Iconic. And just a few years ago, on the board of directors of Goldman Sachs was the chairman of McKinsey. He sits in the boardroom. It's very clear to board members. You get inside information. You are restricted by every law there is that when you get the inside information, you cannot tell anybody else that information because they can take advantage of it and either sell or buy in the marketplace. But tell me, the chairman of McKinsey, he sits in. This was during this latest financial crisis 5 or 6 years ago when we thought the world was going to come to an end. I was scared. Goldman Sachs was out of money. How could Goldman Sachs be out of money? Biggest group on Wall Street. They made a deal with Warren Buffett for him to inject $5 billion of capital into Goldman Sachs. And the board member, who's chairman of McKinsey, leaves the boardroom, gets on the phone with another friend of his, who's a private equity guy, and says, buy Goldman Sachs stock. And obviously the stock went up, and they made $30 or $40 million in one day. However, I think both of those guys are in jail now. But those are just a few. And so people go to the conventions to hear the con artists, and most of them are, to talk about, I've got the secret to success, and they're going to give you the silver, the potion. And we drink it because they're gifted speakers. We drink it. And then find out that that doesn't work. What works is being transparent, being truthful and honest, having products or services that people actually want. Make sure there's a value statement there. And when you have that, you've got the chance to have a sustainable business. So the challenge is make sure you're talking to people that you really can trust. Now, if I'm going to be in business, I've got a great friend that's head of neurosurgery at Emory. He's in the Hall of Fame of neurosurgery. I don't talk to him about business. I talk to him about, if I got a problem with my brain, I talk to him. You talk to people and ask questions of people that are doing what you're doing. When I played football, I didn't talk to neurosurgeons. I didn't talk to Sam Walton, the founder of an iconic entrepreneur at Walmart. I talked to other quarterbacks. I talked to the older quarterbacks, people that you wouldn't even recognize the names, but they were iconic Hall of Fame quarterbacks that had done great work and really figured out how to play. So at 21, I go to pro football, and I think I'm going to call up Otto Graham and John Unitas. And I continued talking to him and asked why, how, do, what, And that's how I learned. You learn from getting out of your own shell and talking to other people, and they'll guide you. They'll give you information and knowledge that you cannot get anywhere else. And that's the secret to success.
Modeling other people that are getting the results that you want. It amazes me how many people go to a gym and hire a trainer that's in horrible shape. I see it every single day, and what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Find someone who's getting the results that you want and model them. Do what they did.
Yeah, and the learning process never stops. Never stops. We talked about, we've been working for the last 20 years with millions of entrepreneurs, 1 to 10 employees, Mom and Pa, because Mom and Pa had no help. So we wanted to be a place and a beacon where they could ask questions, get knowledge, and have a better chance with that knowledge of being able to get there. We wanted to make them smarter. Smarter people that play football, or they have a better chance to succeed. Smarter people that play any sport or business. And so, as I told you, I made good grades, and I got through college in 4 years, and I got through high school, but I left there virtually unscathed by education because I had no interest in it, and that's my fault. But a few years ago, I was over at Georgia. We're putting my teammate back then, Pat Dye, who later became a great coach at Auburn, and Pat was a great football player. We're putting him in the Georgia Hall of Honor or whatever it is. And I was down on the sidelines, and our president came over to me and said, you know, we need to do something together. And I said, I don't know what we can do together. He said, well, you're doing all this small business stuff, and we got an entrepreneurial school, Terry School of Business. We got a great entrepreneurship program, and they really do. They got one of the great entrepreneurial programs in the country. And it's got that reputation at Harvard, and all the people that I know at Harvard and Walton and all, they really admire what they're doing at Terry. And so I came back to my people because I don't have all the answers. I go in and I ask my people. I don't tell them what to do. Here's what he wants to do. How can we work together? We had a 3-hour brainstorming session. I asked questions. I got 25-year-old smart people. I got 55, 60-year-old smart people. But they're even smarter because they listen and they go, and I need to hear from them. And one of them said, you know, we need to have an online entrepreneurial MBA type program that's really practical, that we can get the Terry College of Business, they're great professors, to be able to work with us to develop this curriculum. I said, that's really a good idea. Because in all the research that's done, if you have an advanced degree in business, you have a better chance. If you have a college education, you have a better chance. If you have a high school education, you got a better chance of the dropout. So the more formal learning and education we can give them, so we set up. I said, we'll do it. We'll fund it. And then we'll use your professors and some of our people, and we'll put together a real course. We put together a 100-hour course. It's really good. And it's got all the rigor in it. You've got to get from here to here, you got to do something. You got to work. And you know, the biggest problem we have is get people to go through the procedure. And so we put that together. And so we looked at it, and we were going to price it. And we looked at what they're pricing across the country, and these type of courses that would be content-wise equal to ours, they were charging $12,000 to $15,000. I said, that's crazy. We're not going to do that. Well, you can get that. I said, we're not going to do that. We're going to reduce that price, and so we take it out at $995. I have a scholarship program. I've out of my money I paid, I've given 200 scholarships to take the program. And so it's, if our hearts are right and we really want to help people, we have a better chance, you have a better chance of making your business successful, whatever that might be. And I wake up every morning, what can I do to help an entrepreneur, either fledgling, starting out, or struggling, or doing well but wants to do better? And how do we bring together all the resources and all the thinking and the best thinking that we can do to help that happen? Technology. Gosh, I can hardly turn television on and off. And I used to have trouble when it was simple. Now, the television's a computer, right? And if a thing, it goes wacky, and I have to get my wife to come in and get the thing going. Technology's great. I leverage it. Don't understand it anywhere near as well as you people, but I understand the power of it. And so, as we're trying to get our message of small business and what we can do out into the world, I went and did a small business program on Sirius XM radio. Did it for 2 years. Built a little studio in our thing, and we did it. And I found out that sounded, oh, that's great. You know, Sirius XM, they're all across the country. They got 8 zillion customers paying da-da-da. And I finally found out they got all that, but nobody listens to radio. I'm in there 2 hours every Monday night, just boom, bringing great guests. I bring all these great. I brought in Bernie Marcus. Bernie Marcus is the founder of Home Depot, and that caliber of people. Nobody's listening. I write books, And we sell a lot of books, but nobody reads the books. So I used radio to try to reach more people. Now, some of you guys may hear me on 680 the Fan. Is that what it is? 680 the Zone, or whatever it is, the sports talk show, something. So a couple of years ago, I decided I'm going to go. I can talk football in my sleep. So I said, just to get, I'll go on. These guys all want me to go on their show. So I said, I'll go on. I'll get 10 or 12 markets. That's about all I can do in the football season. In the NFL, leverage what you got, right? Biggest brand there is in America is the national NFL football. So I got into 10 or 12 markets: Atlanta, 680 the Fan, Minnesota, New York, Los Angeles, which was an NFL park and now is, Houston, all these big markets. And I do 15 or 20 minutes, and they talk about go small biz, entrepreneurism, go to our website, so I can find out nobody's listening to their radio shows either. So I am looking around, and I read everything, and I'm seeing that what they do look at is video content. Amazon now is getting into the video content. Facebook is into the video content now. I went out and started doing what was the Facebook mentions? Is that what it was back 6 months ago? Y'all know what Facebook mentions is, I guess. You don't? I can't explain it, Matthew. Can you? But anyway, but anyway, I'll tell you what. I got my smartphone, right? And my guy, I'll even pull out my smartphone, and it's a real smart. So the guy says, we can go on Facebook, and we can message out that Fran Tarkenton's going to be on live in 3 minutes, and he gets it like that on a little projector, and he says, 3, 2, 1, you're on. So I talk 4 or 5 minutes about whatever, right? Entrepreneurship, whatever it is. He says, and I finish after 4 minutes, he says, 250 people are on. I said, what? 250 people. And at the end of it, I said, go to our website, gosmallbiz.com, and they come to the website. And then by the next morning, we had 2,500 that came on. So I said, that's pretty cool. And so then we got into the playoff season, and Cam Newton was doing well, and they beat somebody in a playoff game, so the NFL sells, right? So I talked about Cam Newton. Everybody wants to knock Cam Newton, so I praised Cam Newton. And da-da-da-da-da. And we looked at 2 hours after I'd done it, 400,000 people viewed it. 1 million people it reached. And over the last 6 months, we've had 7 million views and 12 million reaches. So I said, there's something here. Something's here. So then I did a guy who's a little bit of an edgy guy comes to me. I get a lot of edgy people that come to me, and I don't like edgy people. And he wants to do a webcast on sales. I said, we can do that. And because the most overlooked thing in business is the most important thing. For a while, I was asking people, what's the most important thing you do in business? What is the most important thing? And they all go around here and go around here. They never say what is the most important thing. The most important thing in your business is you got to have revenue. If you don't have revenue, you don't eat. So if you have revenue, you got to do what? You got to make a sale. And if you're the entrepreneur, guess who's got to make the sale? Me. I'm the chief revenue officer in every company I've ever built. Because I understand if we don't find ways to get our message to more people and make sure our product is served, we have no chance. So I'm searching for all that. And I find it in a number of ways. One way is entrepreneurs don't get this. They really don't. You got to have partners. Got to have partners. Me by myself, I'm not big enough to go out and so I got partners. How do you get partners? You go out and talk to them and make sure that they make money before you do. So we did this webcast, and we charged $49 for it and put it out on social media. And he and I did 4 hours of great content. 4 hours. They said, oh, you only do 50. We did 4 hours. They could come and go. You get it live, get it on demand. And we never had a time we didn't have at least 1,000, 1,200 people watching. We had 5,000 people that came and watched. And the feedback, they got something out of it. We gave them good, solid education about. Any of you read a sales book or went to a sales class?
Sure.
And what do they take? You know, how to do the soft close, the hard close, how to answer objections. Sell, sell, sell. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that type of selling. I believe, like I said before, in transparency. Here's what we do. Here's what our product does. Does this make any sense to you? And they say, no, it doesn't make any sense. I said, I got it. Thank you so much for your time. I don't have a hard close and a soft close. I don't want to tell people what to do. I don't want to tell people what to buy. But over the years in the salesman I've known, if you buy one, they want you to buy 9. They don't care whether you want it or not. And so we had a whole different approach. People responded. Then I got thinking, I learned from sitting down with Sam Walton in his pickup truck year after year after year. And I'm asking him questions. I don't have to tell you who Sam Walton is, do I? And we would go and we would talk, and he'd ask me questions. I went with him to open the stores. He's asking questions of everybody. Sam Walton. He didn't run into some regal CEO, founder, iconic person. He was right down there with them. Most people don't like to sell. You know why they don't like to sell? Because they don't want to be like that. That's a good thing. You don't have to be like that. But if you believe in what you're doing and you're working to make your product good and so forth, you want to help people, don't you? Because the mission of business is one thing. Got to help people.
That concludes part 1 of our interview with Fran Tarkenton. The Tarkenton organization has made an incredible gesture and offer. Go to smallbiz.com, enter the promotional code EOAtlanta, and receive 25% off the monthly subscription rate. Thank you for listening. If you have not already subscribed to the show, please go over to iTunes, subscribe, listen to the shows, and then leave us a 5-star rating. Please share this episode with your friends, family, coworkers, or anyone that could benefit from this information. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. And if you have any questions or need help with any of this material, please contact info@thorconklin.com. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day. And please don't forget to tune in tomorrow for part 2.